The question is, where was Jesus for the 3 days between his death and his resurrection? Well, the Bible doesn't give a ton of information about that, but it does give some. So let's start with where he wasn't. Jesus was not suffering in hell. Some people actually teach that. They say that when Jesus died, he went to hell, and there he was tormented by Satan and his demons as a way to further pay for the penalty that we would have otherwise paid. Well, let me tell you, that's not true. We know that because in John 19:30, Jesus cries out on the cross, "It is finished." And what he meant is, my work of redemption has been accomplished. That Greek word, "it is finished," talks about a debt that's been fully paid. So Jesus says, it's finished, which means I've paid the debt. I've absorbed the wrath of God that all of the elect, those who will one day believe, that they deserved. So when he says on the cross, it's finished, it means the debt's been paid, atonement has been accomplished, redemption has been completed. So we know that Jesus was not suffering in hell. Where was he? Well, it's a little bit difficult to say with exact certainty. Some would point to his words on the cross, Luke 23:43, where Jesus says to the thief on the cross, "Today you shall be with me in paradise." And paradise would seem to be a reference to heaven. Others would say, based on Luke 16:22, the parable that Jesus gave when he was talking about the poor man Lazarus and the rich man. So he talks about Lazarus went to Abraham's bosom, which seemed to be a place for Old Testament saints where it was a place of comfort and rest, but it wasn't heaven yet. It was kind of a temporary resting place. Some would say, oh, that's where Jesus went, to the temporary resting place until his resurrection. However, perhaps the best answer would come from 1 Peter 3. You see, 1 Peter 3:18 and 19 says this, "For Christ also died once for all, the just for the unjust, so that he might bring us to God, having been put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the spirit." And this is what you want to hear. "In which also he went and made proclamation to the spirits in prison." Verse 19 is particularly helpful because it says he went and made proclamation to the spirits in prison. Well, you should be asking, what does that mean? Who were these spirits? What is this prison? Well, it means that there's some real prison where demon spirits, angelic spirits who were disobedient, where they have been placed in sort of a holding tank until they will be finally thrown into the lake of fire. And we know this when it says he preached to spirits. He's not talking about people. He would have used a different word to refer to souls, but he didn't use that. So this is a word that indicates spirits. And you know which spirits he's talking about because of the next verse, because of verse 20, 1 Peter 3:20. Talking about these spirits, it says, "who once were disobedient when the patience of God kept waiting in the days of Noah." So something about these spirits is they were disobedient around the time of Noah. So what that means is these were holy angels, these were demons who disobeyed God. And Genesis 6 actually gives us further insight into this. Genesis 6 talks about these angels who violated their normal abode, their place, and actually took the form of men, inhabited men, cohabited or slept with women, and had offspring. And basically, they polluted the world with their demonic activity. They made sin rampant. Well, God determined that you, evil spirits, have gone too far by doing this, so he essentially removed them and imprisoned them in the prison where they're now at, the prison where Christ went to proclaim, as it says, to make proclamation. It's a word that means preached. Jesus preached to them. He heralded something to them. And in fact, in the ancient world, a herald would come to a town and he would be the representative of the ruler. He would come to make some sort of public announcement. Maybe he would even go in front of a general or a king, and he would pronounce this military triumph. So when Peter says that Jesus made proclamation, it means he heralded, which is not to say he came and preached the gospel, because there's a different verb in Greek that he would have used for that. But Jesus came and proclaimed his victory. In particular, probably his victory over sin, his victory over Satan, and his victory over death. And it may be that these demon spirits who had been imprisoned, when they saw that Jesus died, they were rejoicing that everybody was going to be in hell with them one day, that Jesus had lost the battle, that everyone would be enjoying the same misery they'd been enjoying. And yet, Jesus shows up and he says, not the case. I have been victorious. I've defeated sin, Satan, and death. And so, in summary, when we think about where was Jesus, the biblical record seems to suggest most clearly that Christ went to this place where demon spirits were imprisoned, and he proclaimed his victory, his absolute stunning victory over them and all of the forces of Satan.